What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Huddle, the number one podcast in flooring. We're here every week to help you guys gain forward progress in your careers. Simply put, we're here to help you win. For all our new viewers, welcome to the team.
Welcome,
We
everyone.
have on the podcast, as always, Paul Stewart, Daniel Gonzalez, and Jose Gonzalez of Preferred Flooring out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we got Busta Rhymes. Uh, yeah, Jose, dude, you look awesome. So,
Out here on location.
what's up, fellas?
What's going on, brother?
I know this dude has a run because his son has a game. It's the middle school
Yeah,
today,
today
right?
we have the early game. We haven't had. I think this is the first early game, as a matter of fact. So
So you
four
get going
15.
here pretty quick. So
Yeah, game starts
I'm
in
gonna
a
I'm
few
gonna give the
minutes.
floor to you, dude. We are gonna let me
Let's just
jump in
bust it
here
open,
just
right?
super quick and bust this thing open. Today's topic is the mental load no one talks about, and I want Jose to chime in here before he goes. And the rest of that topic is ownership in the trades. We're specifically talking kind of about, you know, not $100 million flooring companies. We're talking about the companies that, get started, get dirty, install
Yeah,
floors, have crew members, where I know I started and you guys started. So Jose, take it
yeah,
away about the
and
mental load.
so the mental load, and you talk about where we get started, right? And I think it's one of those things where you're always still there, right? You're always still at the starting point of some part
There's
in your
always a
business,
mental load.
right? Always a mental load, and the things that go that are behind the scenes, and this is obviously my perspective, right? The things that are behind the scenes is um, you're learning every day. The mental load, like for me, it's I know that there's families that rely on what I do to put food on their table, right?
Let
That
me ask
mental
you a quick
load,
question.
yeah,
Did you have that same feeling when you first got going, when you and your brother kind of
yes.
first launched out on your own, maybe brought a couple teammates with you?
Well, we did a whole year with just Daniel and I, and yes, I did because when I put my 2 weeks in, and then I was immediately let go. And I talked with Daniel. I kind of like said, "Hey, dude, do not quit. Right? If I start finding some work, are you willing to come along?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course." And I said, "All right, but don't quit, dude. I don't need that stress. He's about to have a baby, right? I don't need that stress." That was a Monday for me, and Wednesday he's like, "Well, guess what, dude?
I'm
I don't work
out.
there anymore. I'm out." I'm like, right, and
Dude, I said not to
I
quit.
said not
Don't
to
quit.
wait.
I
So
said
that
don't quit.
they
It's
put him in a
okay.
corner, they just, and he can probably elaborate on it better than I can, but it's just the amount of I don't want to say stress, right? Because it wasn't stressful. It's like exciting stress is different than the stress that you can't control, right? So uh, I was very, I was concerned because now I felt my little brother, and he's my only brother. My baby
Responsibility.
brother was put in this situation. Like it wasn't supposed to go like that. He was supposed to be safe, and that was the stress that was put on me, and I've learned to deal with it. It's just, and I appreciate, I thankful for everyone who trusts me and who has trusted me to keep a workload and put food on their table. It's, it's always going to continue to be one of those journeys that I will always worry about, right? Like I always think about that. How
Yeah, it
can
just
we?
gets bigger, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It just grows, right? The what used to stress me out doesn't even come close to stressing me out anymore. That's just for all you newbies out there. That's a drop in the bucket. I'm going to be honest, right? But new stress is still stress. It doesn't matter how big or how small. It's still new, and it's something to worry about. And all you can do is
Well,
get better from it.
just to point out the key difference is, I worked by the hour as a employee installer. Did you guys do that, or were you
Yes, we
subs?
did.
Okay,
But
so
subs and
you're
by
going
the hour.
you're going from by the hour to like a kind of
By the
a
job.
guaranteed 40-hour week to hunting, and only it's like going from grocery store is how you get your food to hunter gatherer.
Yeah.
Like it is a big difference in your mental load and the mental weight that's on your shoulders. So I just want to point that out, that the big
It,
difference
it,
is like going from just going and grabbing some food at the grocery store to only eating what you are able
that's a
to
great way to
hunt
put it,
We
dude.
yeah, we
or
we ate a
gather.
lot of spaghetti and noodles and
You know what? To say, look, I'll be straight up honest. I mean, Daniel and I were broke. I mean, we didn't have any money, dude. We had to rely
but
on our family to feed us. We would
and
go
look
to
at
our family's
this.
house,
Rollins says, but
and
man, you're the owner. You're making all the money.
yeah, and man, that right there. You know what? If I didn't have that mindset at some point in my life, right, I'd be lying if I told you I didn't. But
I think we
the
all did. That's why but that mindset is kind of what pushes you out to go out and be on your own. And I think
it,
if I was to sit and choose, look, I know all the hardships that come with being an owner that you got, but if I was to sit and choose whether I would be an employee for somebody again or being be my own boss and run my company, I would still choose the same path. But it's
this,
that thought that made me like, oh, I can do, because the company I worked for was getting ready to get bought out for like the third or fourth time, and then I was like, I'm gonna have another set of bosses. I can do this on my own.
right.
And so, and of course, I thought the boss made all the money, and
The, you know what? Some people that work for us that have known us and been part of our growth, uh, that still comes out of their mouth sometimes. It's like, dude, like, come on, like you're here, like we're transparent. You know that that's not factual, but if if that's what you got to
well,
keep
we
telling
control the
yourself,
money, that's for sure, but a responsible owner for everybody out there, and that's kind of what we're talking about, is what you learn is that it's not all your money. You have to pay your employees first, especially in the early days. Often the owner eats last,
yep,
and we either that or you go under because you can't keep employees because you make sure you're taken care of, but you don't pay your employees. That's actually what happened to me. I had 5 checks at one time
oh my
that I
goodness.
could not cash at the company I worked for.
So,
And then every once in a while they'd get a big deposit and everybody would race to the bank like we were Mario Andretti.
but that was one of the things that really um, made us wait so long to hire our first employee is we did go over a list of the things that we didn't ever want to do to people, and that has happened to me. It only happened to me when I worked for for a sub as a sub. That's the only time it ever happened, right? And it's just, and we were at a time when I could go to the corner store and cash my check, and those are the people I grew up around. And the next thing you know, I'm cashing checks that bounce, and now they no longer trust me. Um, we said that we didn't ever want that to happen. We never ever wanted that to happen.
Well,
And
add that to the mental load, right? Because now you have this whole set of weights and balances that you put on
yeah,
yourself as an ethical, moral company. And if you work for or at a ethical, moral company, these are some of the things they have to think about and balance, especially in the early days.
yeah, and sometimes I will say sometimes our financials falls behind. They have technical difficulties too, and sometimes it's not in there at the same time as it is every week.
Yeah,
Sometimes
usually
a
it's
little
in there
delayed,
at
and
like 5 a.m. and sometimes like I'll get text messages right in the morning. Hey,
I
what's
haven't got my
up?
check
It's
yet.
like, bro, it's out of my account already. I don't like.
Bro, I cannot tell you. It's such a funny story. But um, the same exact thing. We most times, like 95% of the time, our employees' uh, paychecks are in their account Thursday night. Now,
Yeah,
we say that our payday is Friday, by the end of the day, Friday, and because that we used to handwrite check or
Right. And if you
write
had
yeah,
to
checks,
go
and then they'd
take it
come
to
and
the
pick them up
bank, you wouldn't
Friday
get paid
afternoon.
until after work on Friday,
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah,
technically.
yeah.
yeah.
And so that's what we promise. And man, I probably twice in the last 10, 15 years, we've had it where it didn't hit till noon or 1 o'clock on Friday for whatever reason. And man, it is like Armageddon all of a sudden. I'm getting, not really, but like I'm getting emails and text messages from, where's my check? I'm like, calm down, because we guarantee you will be paid by Friday before the end
End
of
of the day.
business.
Yep.
And if it's not there or we don't see it, uh, if you don't have it by then you can call me or text me.
And
But
that
it's
was
already out of our account, so I know that the money's moving in your direction. Why this week was different, I can't tell you, but same exact thing. It's really kind of I won't say
that's another
comical.
added
I
stress
can
too.
understand the concern, but I also kind of say, hey, you just got to realize, guys, you're not late on payment. I don't owe you on Thursday at midnight or Friday morning at midnight. I owe you Friday before the workday's over, and
Right. And
I haven't failed to do that. So
we used to run into the situation where when we worked for the sub as a sub, and it's some guys are like, "Hey, dude, can I get my check on Thursday night?" You know, and I've seen that happen before, and then they don't come in Friday or Monday, right? Once they get their check.
yeah,
And
we moved our subs to Monday pay a long time ago because
yeah,
they would get their check on Friday and not show up on a weekend job that they were scheduled for or something. And so we quit paying our subs on Fridays and started paying them on Mondays.
it sucks to
and
be like that, right?
and
But
now
that's
we
a
still see, some of the partners doing that. It's they'll finish the job on a Wednesday, and then Thursday morning they're like, "Hey, what's up? Can I get paid for that now?"
Yeah, we pay once a week. Uh, in fact, I don't. And for subs out there, um, you know, if you work for a store that pays you every week, that is because they want to, not because they're legally obligated to. They
correct.
are legally obligated to pay you under the same conditions that the contractor is obligated to pay them, which is 7 days after we
They
receive
receive
the money.
payment.
So if
Yep.
we're paying you every week, that's because we want to help you keep your cash flow going and keep things going. Legally, we're not required to pay you until 7 days
You
after,
guys see
at
me
least
wrapping
in
up, so
Kansas, 7 days after we receive payment. So that'd put you out like 45, 50 days on every invoice. And
Sometimes more than that.
and sometimes much more than that. But in general, most good companies pay weekly or biweekly.
Yeah, we do it on a net 15, but still try and get it in there, um, sooner than that if
we do it
possible.
soon. We're pretty good about it. I mean,
We just
our
process it as for consistency reasons. It's more like every Tuesday by noon, all invoices are due in trade tap. All of our PMs go in and review them from Tuesday to Thursday, and then they go from needs reviewed to ready to pay. And I go in there every Thursday afternoon, 2 o'clock, pay every single sub that's in ready to pay, and then that's that. It fires them a lien release, they sign it, and they get paid. So
you
now
guys
it
see my
depends
double
on how they
decker. You guys see
chose
my
to
double
how
decker
fast.
wagon here.
I do.
Yeah, we got that to relieve the stress of having to carry everything.
So Hothead does say this right here, replying to Rollin. He says, "What other people don't see is the overhead with everything," and that's kind of where we started, right? It's everyone thinks that you're bringing in all this money, and granted, they do. You can probably see that money coming in, but you don't see everything that's going out.
Yeah. And
Gentlemen, I'm
and it's
about
a
to
good
enter
lesson.
the windy part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come off camera, but I will join in the comments.
All right.
Okay. See you later, man. Good
All
luck.
right, brother. Thank you.
But yeah, they don't get to see the finances where the money goes out, you know, and yeah, everything costs. Like the lights that are on, the building we're in, the camera that I'm or the laptop I'm on, the earbuds I have in, everything costs money, and that's all part of doing business. And so those costs have to be covered somehow. And you know, as subs, these are the things that we want to teach our subs. We want them
Right.
to understand, and not just ours as Stewart and Associates, my flooring company, but in that's why we do this huddle. We want you to understand those are the things you want to pay attention to and make sure you're putting first. There's if you do good work and you go out and if you're say you're working for shops, you work for good shops and they got good reputations and you will uh, most of the time if you're running your business well, you're going to make money and then you have to decide where that money goes. And I always put employees and expenses and the the making sure the company made it in the early days first.
Yeah, Jorge
Then I would
says
take whatever. And I tell the story often. I took $600 a week as a salary for the first 5 years of my company.
Jorge says that he likes to work weekends nowadays that he's older, so he doesn't have that problem. And I think that's like if the kids don't have anything, I don't mind working weekends either, right? And sometimes I go and if we do have a weekend project, I'll be the first one to be like, all right, I'll be there. Who's coming with me?
Hmm.
And that's just to show the guys like I'm not trying to punish you here, but sometimes things got to get done.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know about you, but I very rarely myself don't work a weekend. I've got plenty bids or catching up or collections or something. There's always something that needs to be done. And throughout the week, in the hustle and bustle of a week, sometimes some of those important things don't get done. And I use the weekend as usually a Saturday. I'll take off one day almost every weekend. And then, but I'll work a Saturday or sometimes a Sunday afternoon after church or something and come in and put in 4, 5, 6 hours on a Sunday or a full day on a Saturday to get caught back up, kind of, to feel like I can attack Monday
Right.
with some confidence.
Where it's like it's things that have to be done, but they're not like important enough to do it like this week. So it's like I know I'm
Urgent.
gonna have I know I'm gonna have a few hours on Saturday. I don't have the kids, anything with the kids, so I'll just go and sometimes my daughter likes to go to. She loves going to this restaurant that's local here, Maggie's Kitchen, on Saturdays because this girl loves menudo, right? So she's like, so sometimes I'll wait till she gets up. We'll go get breakfast, drop them back off, and then I'll come to work, right? So at least I'm not spending all day.
And I think that's an important point to bring up is that you can if you're one of them hardworking guys that loves working weekends, I know plenty of these guys that work for us. Have make sure you're prioritizing family because I've also seen a lot of businesses have problems because their marriage or their family starts having issues and then it becomes an urgent matter. Your family is important, so make sure to prioritize some of that, even in the hustle and bustle time. I know that's kind of more of a personal thing but I think it's a business thing. I think that many a businessmen have lost their families and then lost their business because they don't they don't balance the two. And it depends on your spouse. Like my wife is incredibly understanding to who I am and how I am from a working perspective. I enjoy working. I work a lot more than 99% of people I know, partially because I like it.
Well,
That's not a brag. It's just because if, for example, right now I'm building AI agents for almost every minute process in my business. I've got a working prototype. You know, I've been working on that. I probably got 50 to 75 hours on that. And, those weekends are clear, crisp, like focus time on things like that. And that is incredibly important, but not always urgent. Like if I don't have it done tomorrow, I don't lose business necessarily, but long term, it's the way we're going. We're going in our building our own agentic operating system.
Yeah, there was a video I
So
seen the other day, and there was this lady. She was like, the best thing about being a business owner is that there's always something to do. And the worst thing about being a business owner is that
they're
there's
always
always
something.
something to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great line, man, because it's true. There's not, and I think that kind of ties back to our topic, which is the mental load. Like, because there's always something to do, there's always something that could be on your mind, and controlling your thoughts. This is something that took me decades to get figured out. I used to be the guy not so long ago that Sunday night, I'll tell you honestly, I'd almost have to. I don't drink anymore, but I would have to drink myself silly on a Sunday night because of the anxiety of a Monday, and all these things are entering my mind of what I got to do tomorrow and all this stuff. It took, it was a really abusive and wrong way to deal with that. I deal with it much differently today. Now I just kind of approach things knowing that we're first off, I always tell myself, look, we're not building uh, cancer reversing machinery or rockets that are going to increase humankind's footprint. Like, we are doing floors. Okay, we're putting in floors. It's not, we're not saving the planet, we're not saving the world. It's an important job, but put it in perspective. First off, secondly, it's probably going to be there tomorrow. The fear, there's many a times I've not slept and I've gotten up at 1 a.m. or at midnight and just got on my computer and started working. The fear that made me do that, looking back, I can't name you very many, maybe two or three instances where that fear actually came reality. And hell, I probably helped it become that, because that was all that was on my mind, was the worst case scenario. So controlling your emotions in business is important. Showing your employees that you can be level headed and calm, and that's all part of this mental load we're talking about. If you're a crew leader and you have three or four guys working for you, again, you got three or four mouths to feed. If you look at if you look at it that way, and I think most good bosses do, and then you also have all this other stuff coming up, right? You get opportunity fears, like an opportunity to do a job bigger than maybe you've done in the past, or a little more difficult than you've done in the past, and you got to face those fears and keep trudging along, or else you're not going to grow, right?
Yeah,
And so all
that's that growth, man. It's you gotta do something that you've never done, right? And that's kind of how we've been, well, for a while now, where we set some limitations before, and then we were following these limitations, and then at some point it was like, man, we're hitting these same numbers, so what's going to change? And you got to get out of your comfort zone, right? Because you become real comfortable, and it's like, all right, I'm making this much money, we're doing okay, but then how long is just okay good enough for?
well, this is a great lesson. As you're in business longer, you learn that if you're not growing, you're dying. And that is a saying, but to really hone in on that, because it's not completely true. If you can maintain, and if you're a real operator that can maintain your overhead and your expenses and grow at the pace of inflation, at least there, that's really just kind of keeping up. That's really what the saying's about. If you're not growing, you're dying, because inflation is always growing, and your dollar can't buy as much bread today as it used to in the 60s, and, well, hell, the 80s and 90s. Um, so you have to grow at the pace of inflation at least. But when you start talking about real growth, that's that's when you really have to step out there, like you were talking about, really step out there and take some. bigger risks that you may not have taken in the past. But I encourage you, if you are starting out, I don't care if you're just like, I'm going to, like we did, we're going to quit the company we work for and go start our own subcontracting business. And then maybe that'll grow into a full service flooring company or whatever. When you go to do that, I encourage you greatly to sit down and write down exactly what you want out of this. What do you want out of your business? What do you want your business to look like in 5 years? What do you want your business to look like in 3 years? This is, for some reason, so difficult to do, but it's the simplest thing to do. It's so hard to do, but it is the simplest thing to do. Sit down and dream for a second and write down what you want your business to look like in 5 years. And then write down what you want your business to look like in 3 years. And then you just kind of distill that down to the current day, and you can kind of get a game plan on where you want it to be. That is a great exercise for anybody starting a business. I don't care what field you are in, is knowing what you want that business to look like in 5 years. Doing that is why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, right? I like in 5 years, I want to be able to really know the talent pool. I In 5 years, I really want to be able to bring in a bid and get it out the door and do all this minutia very quickly, and not have to rely so heavily on humans to do this work that is not
All the
rewarding.
repetitive work, right?
Yeah,
Where
not rewarding. I want my employees to be happy, and I know that in all of my presentations to my employees, they love that I'm taking away this part of it, and they get to operate on the in the operational excellence and building relationships, whether that's with our vendors or our customers or the community, but they're not sitting at their desk doing submittals or tracking, you know, a delivery of submittal samples or tracking delivery of actual materials for a job site. Like they're doing, they get the alert of when it's going to come, and they get to get on the phone with their customer and like, hey, that stuff's due in on was due on the 19th. It's not going to be here till the 22nd. Well, if you can make that phone call like 2 weeks ahead of time, not the day of, or the that you're expecting it and it doesn't come in because your vendor didn't tell you that it didn't get out of their warehouse in time to make the truck that goes to the transfer house that comes to your place. Like, we just want to take all that mental stress away. And that is directly because I sat back and said, what do I want my business to look like in 5 years?
and then you reverse engineer, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what do I got to do to get there? And then, like I always say, many small time make big time. You just got to take off
Mhm.
little chunks every single day.
And, with this mental load thing, putting one foot in front of the other. When I get stressed out, I'm like, what's my next task? It's something I'm really good at, is dealing with stress because of that. I've learned the skill of saying, what can I do right now? What's my task right now to get done? Because worrying about all this other stuff is not going to get me moving forward. So, what is my next task that I can knock off my to do list?
Nate says,
Being
being
liable for any and all problems. That's a mental load. I'm glad you brought that up, Nate. That's like, you know, particularly when you send, I don't know if there's a bigger mental load than growing and having to use new subs that you've never used. That is stressful.
it
It's one
is.
of the reasons, literally, guys, like one of the reasons I created originally Go Carrera, Trade Tab, VTI, all that is the stress of having a new crew on a job, and all my customers I considered like gold, and it is such a stressor that I'd either be out in the field with them on the first day, or I'd schedule one of our hourly crews to be with them on the first week or something. And it's a stressor. And because of that, because of what Nate said, you're liable. If that thing
Yeah,
falls apart, those guys just can
they're
walk
done.
off.
Yeah, they
And
just, it's not
that
their
with no
contract,
account
right?
with no accountability, which is, another reason I wanted to build all this is have some accountability. If you're going to walk off a job and leave, you should be, held accountable for those things. And the company should be too. If we're not doing our job right, making sure your materials are correct and your materials are, available and ready for the job, and the job site's at least somewhat ready, you got to give us some leeway on that, because we have, you want to talk about a mental load, trying to make sure job sites are ready for flooring is half of our, it seems like half the time we spend is out teach continuously educating our clients that the specs call for this.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the same specs, but we have to continuously
We
educate
we're
certain
the ones that
clients.
have to take those specs and be able to spit it out in a form that they will understand.
Your brother writes, creating a physical to-do list has helped me with balance. Even with all our tech, I still like to write things down. I'm with him on that. I still have manual to-do lists. I mean, I have some lists in Google as well, but they're just emails that come through that go on my Google task list, um, because they're already in a digital format. But when I get a phone call or if an email is super important, I will write it down. Like I'll write down the information. It's right there in my email. But something about writing it down and having it right there, Jose, I agree with you, man. It's
Well,
like
it's like because you can carry something with you all the time, right? And once you have it with you, and all you got to do is open it up, and you can. It's not like an app where it's like, oh, what app was that, or have to open it up. It's like I got it right here. Let me just. I got it bookmarked on the page already.
when you just remember writing it too. There's something about writing it down that it's like, oh yeah, I know I did something. Let me flip back a couple sheets, you know, and see what I wrote down. I mean, there's more efficient ways to do it for sure, but I still enjoy writing stuff down.
Yeah, and it's just learning these new software systems and stuff too, and what works and what doesn't, because it's just like AI. Everything that comes out of a box isn't going to work for you exactly how you want it to. So if writing it down is the way to go, that's how you got to do it. Because I mean, with us, we use the Microsoft suite, right? So it's like things can go from a task list that is shared with everyone over to just yours, but then it's a totally different system at that point where it's like, all right, now how do I get it from point A to point B? And then once it's done, how do I let everyone know now over here that it's done? Or do you have to duplicate everything and keep track of two sets of things? So it's like, man, it's
Mental load.
yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like I'd rather just like even like I'm with you guys. I'd rather just write it down, cross it off as it goes, and then if I have something over here, I can just boom check it off over here.
Well, and there's something incredibly rewarding about checking it off your list. And I know that the apps will do that too. But I just, you know, as a creator of an app, I can understand both sides. But man, I still prefer to write things down. Um, but talking about all the software and all that, there's just more mental load as you grow. But I would say stay curious in software, but adopt as you need. And then you when you're ready to adopt, you kind of already know certain things. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the,
and
like when you went to Microsoft, it wasn't like and you decided you were going to go Microsoft Suite and Teams and all the management pieces that Microsoft offers. You
yeah,
didn't
we
do
didn't
that.
start using. We still don't use probably a quarter of what they offer.
Yeah. Well, and it's the same like you kind of get into I hired a new estimator at our Kansas City office. Actually, our manager up there did. And I was talking with her this last Friday, and she's like, "Why don't you guys just produce your whole bid out of Measure Square? Why do you use different softwares?" And I'm like, "Because we use different softwares. Because so we don't want there to be one source of failure as part of it, and there's all these other reasons that I
And
told her.
it's
But
you can double check everything too, right? It's like okay, it goes from this one to this one, and if you missed anything, you catch things.
yeah, that's why our agentic operating system has what's called gates, and the gates are all where humans, like it stops at a human. It can't, because I want enough checks and balances that at the end of the day, this is not just AI running amok. It is
Someone's got to check to make sure
agentic,
things are right.
but it gets, there's a gate and a gatekeeper on each item. But yeah, all that, little off topic, but still it's part of what you think about a lot as a business owner.
Jorge says writing things down really sets it. That way you can crush it later. That's the way he treated goals. He used to think that it was silly until he started doing it, and then they start coming true, right? It's like you're manifesting it by writing it down. That's
Yeah.
when he learned the power of writing stuff down. And then Rollins says he has his wife write it down because he can't read his own writing. And I'm in that boat too. I don't have my wife write it down, but I write it down, but I have to use all caps so that if I write in lowercase, no one will be able to read it. It's like doctors.
uh,
So
Knowing that someone else,
he
what's he
still
say there?
struggles with this mental load, knowing that someone else's 100% is not the same as his. So, uh, probably more so on the installation side, maybe, right? Where it's like people are just like, that's good enough.
Hmm.
When it's not good enough, right? Because it's still not what it
Yeah,
should look like.
one of the things I hate hearing is leave it for the punch list. That I've heard that. Like, I'll send you home for the day on that one. Like, don't say that. No, we don't leave things for punch list, first off. And then like, um, oh, that'll pass. Well, if you're saying that, you need to
Yeah.
address the deal.
He said his son struck out swinging, but he was swinging for the fences. Yeah, I'm the same way. It's like you have to have that no punch list mentality because especially as a business owner, right? It's like, all right,
Hmm.
a punch list means more money that's getting spent on something that should have been done right to begin with.
Yeah. Well, and harkening back to your brother, the 100% makes me think he's also talking about, maybe he can chime in at some point to clarify if I'm off base here, but like giving 100%, what does that mean? And for him, it means like what 100, you don't have anything left to give on a certain situation or a project or a day or whatever. Um, and someone else says they're giving 100%, but it's that they're not lining up. Their 100% is not his 100%. And it's hard to really understand people like that when you are like a higher performer. But what I've always told myself is continue to set a good example, no matter what, if nothing else, you're setting the example that hard work is the A, you're willing to do it, and B, that it's part of what it takes to to be successful and to achieve those goals and dreams that I'm telling you to write down. And I'm glad that Jorge brought that up. Like he finds the power of that. And I've been reading a lot about the future self from Benjamin, Dr. Benjamin, I think it's Benjamin Hardy, and he's got a book. He's got several books, but one of them, 10x is easier than 2x, and be your future self now, I think is the exact title, I believe. But it's all about like thinking like your future self, and you know taking a little bit of your day to consider like what would the 55-year-old Paul that has this business that he's dreamed of, how would he treat this scenario? And so a lot of that has to do with what, even what your brother was talking about, but particularly what Jorge brought up was writing stuff down and putting them goals on paper,
Well,
and it can help relieve this mental load we're talking about. Is getting it down.
I just went and watched a Michael Jackson biopic, right? And even you look at someone that was one of the best at what he did,
There was
and
nobody
and
more
then
successful than
and
Michael
you look at
Jackson.
his mirror, right? And they showed it, his mirror, and he goes to it, and it's like, and he does it every single day, and he tells himself that he's the best, right? So it really is manifesting things and making sure that if you're reading it, you're more apt to actually do it.
Yeah, I mean, people who like the way you talk about these things or the way that you treat those your thoughts and your approach to business is the way your business will turn out. Like, call it manifesting, call it just the fact that, one of my mentors is really big on the uh, RAS in our brains called the reticular activating system. Ed Milet's been talking about this for shit a decade. I mean, he long before it was anybody even knew what the reticular activating system was. But essentially, we don't notice like 90% of what goes on out in the world. Your mind condenses down what you take in by what you need to take in and what's in your purview. And if you're always thinking negative thoughts, that's what your brain is looking for is negative things. If your brain is producing goals and thinking those positive thoughts, then that's what your brain starts looking for. And that's when opportunity, that's why it seems almost like magic all of a sudden. It's not that it wasn't there in the first place. It's just that opportunity you are able to see now. It's kind of like taking scales off your eyes and now you can see it and recognize it as an opportunity. It was probably already always there. It's not that kind of magic. It's your mind recognizing and noticing and understanding it as an opportunity, understanding it as something that you can accomplish. And, so that's where writing this stuff down is important. We went off on a tangent just from your brother saying, I like to
Uh,
write stuff down.
well, I mean, Nate's even chiming in. I'll believe it when I see it is actually backwards. You will not see it until you believe it.
Oh,
And
man, that is my new quote. That is awesome.
lead by example. We all have 70% days, though. On those days, that's when your team needs to pick you up. And that doesn't go for the guys that work by themselves, though, right? You got to be 100% all the time. You got no one to back you up. So suck it up, man.
Well, sometimes if you operate at 100% all the time and you have a 70% day, 70% is good enough.
Yeah. I mean,
Because most people in reality, and this is just straight up what I believe, most people are operating at about 60%, thinking it's 100%, and then they have what they think is a 70% day, and it's actually a 30%. That was a mouthful. But it's true. If you're used to operating at a high level and you have one of those days that you didn't quite knock it out the park, usually you can live with that and it was probably still a pretty decent day because you're comparing yourself to yourself. And that's the best place to be anyway. Comparing yourself to others never gets you anywhere. It's comparing yourself to the best version of you that can help, right? And
yeah.
so
And I wanted to go back to you were talking about like opportunities, right? And just seeing these opportunities. And I think one of the biggest things for me was you talk to some people and it's like you really want to work with them and it's like you're not winning anything. And it's like, man, just give me a project. And switching that mindset from that to, you know what, at least I'm getting invited. Thanks for the
mhm.
opportunity. We'll catch it on the next one. We'll get it on one of these. It's not going to be right now, and it's probably not going to be tomorrow, but eventually we'll end up getting one of them. And that's all everything is just another opportunity.
Yeah, when I know exactly how that feels, you're like, come on, man. And then at the end of the day, though, you could be like, well, unless you're just really getting used and you know it, then you need to make a decision on whether or not you're going to continue to send that person bids. But if it's a good relationship and you just haven't landed anything yet, it's one of those deals where it's like you can entice them to want to work for you or with you just by the way you respond to them, right? So if you're like, we'll catch you on the next one, then you'll get to really, you know, see what we're made of, that kind of an attitude versus, man, this is the third bid I've sent you and we're not winning nothing. What's the deal? Like that kind of a deal. People want to do business with confident people. And if you're like, didn't didn't win this one, but we put a good number to it as our best number, hopefully our next best number wins. And that's that.
Yeah, and then you'll when you build these relationships, you'll end up catching them on the other end of things too, right? Because you don't just be like, oh, I didn't win, that's it for you. You keep on talking to them, you keep on showing up. And I was just at a pre-bid where they were like, yeah, you guys lost this one by, it was like 20 grand on a $750,000 bid, right? Which is pretty close on something that big.
That's a
And
good close number for
yeah,
sure.
and they were like, but they like as soon as the other company stepped foot on the job site, it was change order, change order, change order, and now they're way more than you guys would have been.
Well, and the other uh the other piece to that is, are you getting the professional service, somebody who really knows how that floor is supposed to go down, that's going to give you a long lasting floor? There's plenty of times where you'll get the opportunity, and I do call this an opportunity, to go and fix one of your competitors' floors, uh, repair it, do whatever, because you they're trusting you. That's a moment for you to shine. We don't like to do it that often either, but sometimes you take that out, that turns into an opportunity where they maybe relook at your number a little tighter when it's as close as the number you were just talking about, and like, man, these guys really know what they're doing. It's probably worth the extra. And because a lot of times guys during business, during like the bid time, they feel like they have no choice than to plug the higher number or the lowest number. That doesn't mean that they won't come out of pocket to get you if you've displayed the ability to go and knock it out of the park. And plenty of times that's happened to us, and I know plenty of times that's happened to you guys. So
Look, I have to. Yes, Rollin, this is my office. Yes, I know I have to clean it. We just moved in. I say we just moved in. It's been what 2 months since we moved in almost, but I was gone for what almost 3 weeks of that. So yes, I
well, and moving a
appreciate.
business is no joke. I've done it, I think, 3 or 4 times. Well, one, two, three, 4 times. It is a mess of a thing to do, to move a whole company, a flooring company, the whole thing.
Nate says a clean office is the sign of a sick mind.
I think the saying is, a clean desk is the sign of something. What is it?
Someone
It
that
may be
doesn't have
sick mind, but it's
ADD, I'll
something
tell you
similar
that.
to it's similar to what Nate just said.
And then my brother also says that our mom told him when he was about 14 and it stuck. If you don't have a job, then your full time job is finding one. He just replaces job with projects.
Yeah, well, that's valuable if you're out there hunting, and that is the probably the biggest mental load for a new guy just starting out as a sub. Is you go from getting fed to having to hunt and kill and gather to eat. And when I say eat, obviously I'm not talking about actual eating. I'm talking about like the way you make your money. And you go from 40 hours a week kind of thing, or 50, whatever your company, if you're working at a busy, only psychos have clean desk. Well, I'm glad to say my desk is a mess. So, um, but you're going from this mentality that I show up to work and I get paid and I do my job and I get paid, regardless of whether the job is profitable, by the way, right? If you're a W 2 employee, that is not of your concern. And then you go from that kind of comfort to, if this job doesn't make money, I don't make anything. Like, I
Yeah,
don't get any
and
money.
that's where that mindset of, oh, you're the owner, so you're making a bunch of money, where they'll have that mindset, and then we see the market where it's like, man, I'm having to go in at like ridiculously tight numbers, to the point where, yeah, if something goes wrong, that's all the
There's not
profit.
much room. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it comes right out of the bottom line, right out of your pocket. At the end of the day, if you're not making, you know, if a good significant part of your projects are not making money, then, you know, you're not making money. So you got to be, it's a little bit different mindset, and that adds the stress because you're not just showing up on Monday, putting in your 40, 50 hours, and then gathering your check on Friday. And if the job made money, great. If it didn't, it's fine too. I got paid, and that's that. That is the W-2 kind of employee stance. And that is, I mean, it's understandable. And I'm glad to have guys that, you know, are on our W-2 staff, um, because it's not very often in flooring that somebody has, you know, W-2 employee installers, but they are, they add a new load when, if you're going, when you do that. And I encourage every sub to hire W-2 employee installers. Learn how to run a business. The employees are part of running a business, and then you can build them up. And I'm proud to say that a lot of our good, really good subs, they were hourly employees for us. And when they said they wanted to go be subcontractor, if we thought they were, you know, kind of ready, we have an exit interview with them and make sure that they're checking all these boxes. Hey, do you have an accountant yet? You got to have one right away. How are you going to structure your business? I would suggest you get with an attorney and an accountant to talk about the pros and cons. Here's the pros and cons of each one as I know them. And we'll walk through each item to try to make them as successful as possible when they launch,
yeah.
because
So
we don't want them to have those problems.
because they have this right here too, and it's like, oh, hey boss, I fixed all that damaged plank for them. Now we need more plank because we're short.
Yeah, and that comes from both sub and
Oh
early.
yeah,
We had a job where, just not too long ago, pretty recently, that we ran short, and we were like, how in the world is that? And we did all this math, and we're trying to, like, you want to talk about mental load, trying to figure out why you're short when you know you have enough material. You went out and field measured, you know, the buildings, the size that they drew it up to be, and you're short 3, 4, 5, 600 feet of a product, and you're like, it's impossible, dude. It's
unless
impossible.
you missed a couple rooms on the print or something,
And you
right?
go and you check and you don't, and you're like, I didn't miss anything. I've got XYZ% of overage and waste. And how in the world? We've had it thrown in the dumpster, we've had it stolen off job sites, like all these things. We've also just had it where the guys replaced plank because the superintendent said, hey, we
Right.
need those scratch planks replaced, and they go do it, and then we're short, and we can't even go back and get a change order a lot of times because we did the work ahead of time and we didn't have proof of the all that stuff. Scratch plank, especially on LVT, is a thing.
Oh yeah, and especially like these bigger projects where you're already on the other side of the building, and then they're like, hey, by the way, come back over here, and it's like, no. That's the kind of stuff I will let hit a punch list, because I'm like, look, man, you got to be real with yourself and know that that is not a punch list item.
Mm-hmm. For real. Hey, Jorge has a good thing we need to bring up
Oh,
next week
sorry.
is,
We
did
try to
we
put
do
it up
that
at
at
the
the
same time.
exact same time?
Yeah.
So next week, Cinco de Mayo is our Spanish episode, and he's got a couple of NTCA rock stars coming on the podcast. So make sure to join him next week. It's also, I believe, Jorge's birthday,
Yeah.
which he didn't mention, but happy early birthday. I'll be on the podcast next week as well, just to hang out
Just to
and
sing him
listen,
happy birthday.
sing him happy birthday. And yeah, so make sure to join us next week. Jorge's got a heck of a show set up for the Spanish speakers of our audience. So yeah, check that out. That's going to be a fun episode. A lot of stuff going on. Oh, also, it's our 200th episode next
200th
week.
episode.
200, folks. We've been on this screen with you for 200 times next week. In some capacity between us, it's our 200th episode. So I want to celebrate that for a moment. Thank you to all of our, you know, day in, day out commenters and our new commenters and the people who join us. It is absolutely a 200 episodes is a lot of episodes. There's a lot of podcasts that go under. We decided long ago we were going to be consistent, keep it simple, have good sponsors, good people, and the guys have knocked it out of the park. And I'm happy to be a part of a podcast that's got 200 episodes under its belt.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It doesn't even feel like it. And sometimes people ask, "How long have you guys been doing it?" And it's like, I mean, look, it says right here, 2022, and it for sure does not feel like we've been doing it for that long.
I know, isn't it nuts? It's pretty freaking cool, and I've had a blast doing it. Um, like it's just been a great thing. I've learned a lot. I've got to know so many people through the podcast, and it's been just sometimes I get on here and I get to vent on what's bugging me. But it has been an honor to get to be on here every week with you guys. We appreciate you guys joining us every week. That's the only way we can do it. So with that said, and we are coming up on the end of the podcast, obviously, I want to say go like and subscribe to our channels. Everything that however you consume this, make sure you are subscribed, you like it, comment on our stuff. That really helps us to, we all know these algorithms that the social media sites and the YouTubes of the world have. And if you like and subscribe, it greatly helps us get this message out to the people who need it. And frankly, there's, by some estimations, 200,000 flooring installers, uh, some estimations larger, some a little smaller, but that's a big number. And a lot of people that are in that number can use some of the lessons that we had to learn the hard way.
Yeah,
And
especially on
so,
this one, right?
and
Because
you guys, the comment, bring great
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, it's not just us talking. Like that's the what people say is what attracts them to us is that we're not just we're talking about this stuff. It's we're bringing everyone on, man. This is not just our podcast. It's your podcast too.
Amen. Yeah. Yeah, and we appreciate all the comments and we appreciate the engagement. Keep it up, guys. This is again an hour's past.
Yeah, and
200th episode is next week, so
one
make
more
sure
thing.
to
It's
check that out.
they did announce last call for this training that we have in Calhoun on May 11th through the 14th, I believe,
Yeah.
15th, something like
Yeah,
that.
scan the QR code right now and go get your your
If
hands on some heat
if
welding
there's
flash
spaces
coving
left,
and
we have
learning.
no idea. Like the last time we talked to him, I talked to him last week, and it was already like almost at capacity. So if there is any more spots left, it might be one or two. So better get on it while you can.
Yep. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week. I've said all the like and subscribes. Make sure to do that. We appreciate you guys. And Scott says episode 201 will be live from Calhoun. I think that is correct. And what
it
a
might
great place to have it.
yeah,
They're
might be
at a
something where
training in
we have to
Calhoun.
have well, he's going to be working nights, so we
Have
can't
some
have him
pizza.
do it.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys. We will see you guys next week.